You know that feeling when you decide to change? You've got the vision board, the affirmations, and the new routine. But the moment you go to take that first step, something inside just tightens. Your throat feels small. Your chest feels heavy. It's like hitting a wall made of glass. You can see the life you want on the other side, but your body refuses to let you walk through it. Most people call this self-sabotage. They might call it a lack of discipline or a weak mind, but what if it is not? What if that resistance is actually your biology doing exactly what it was designed to do? We live in a culture that worships the mind. We're told that if we can just think the right thoughts or visualize the right outcomes, reality will bend to our will. But while your mind is living in the future, your cells are often anchored to the past. They are addicted to the safety of what they already know, even if what they know is a life that no longer fits you. I've hit that wall more times than I care to admit. I've sat in that space between who I was and who I wanted to be, feeling like a failure because I couldn't will my way into a new reality. But I've started to realize that the mind is actually the least powerful tool in this process. This isn't a guide on how to get rich or find a soulmate in 30 days. It's an exploration of the biological code of the self. It's an invitation to stop fighting yourself for a moment and start listening to the internal rhythm you've been ignoring. Maybe your body isn't working against you. Maybe it's protecting you from the very thing you think you want. Because to your nervous system, new equals danger. If you're tired of the struggle, stay with me for a bit. Let's look at why your mind can't manifest, but your body can. We like to think of ourselves as the CEO of our own lives. We imagine the mind sitting at the head of a long boardroom table, making executive decisions and handing down orders to the rest of the company. But if you've ever tried to change a deep-seated habit or manifest a reality that's wildly different from your current one, you've probably noticed that the employees, your cells, your heart, your gut, don't always follow orders. In fact, most of the time, they aren't even listening to the CEO. They're following a manual that was written decades ago, during a time when survival was the only thing that mattered. There's a concept in neuroscience called the somatic marker hypothesis. It suggests that our decision-making isn't purely logical. It's deeply rooted in our physical sensations. When you have a thought about the future, say starting a new business, moving to a new city, or finally allowing yourself to be truly seen, your brain doesn't just process that as a cold data point. It runs it through a biological archive. It sends that thought down into your body and waits for a physical response, a signal from the viscera. If your past experiences have associated high stakes with failure, or if your nervous system learned early on that being successful leads to isolation, or that more leads to danger, your body triggers a somatic marker. It's like a physical price tag attached to the thought. It says, "This idea feels like a threat." And before you've even had a chance to consciously weigh the pros and cons, your body has already vetoed the idea. It's like trying to floor the accelerator while your foot is jammed on the emergency brake. You're burning an incredible amount of fuel, your engine is screaming in your ears, but you aren't moving an inch. And then, at the end of the day, you wonder why you're so utterly exhausted despite having done nothing. This is the dictatorship of the cells. We have to understand that your body doesn't care about your dream life. It doesn't care about your vision board or your 5-year plan. It cares about your survival, right now, in this moment. And to a survival-based system, familiar equals safe, even if familiar is miserable. If you've spent years in a state of high cortisol stress, your body has actually adapted to that chemistry. It's become a biological comfort zone. You might hate your dead-end job or your stagnant relationships, but your cells know how to process that specific cocktail of hormones. They know what to do with frustration. They know how to survive not enough. It's a chemical home. When you try to manifest abundance or peace, you're essentially asking your body to switch to a chemical language it doesn't speak. You're trying to introduce a new future that doesn't have a matching safety marker in the archive. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that acts as the gatekeeper between your logic and your emotional history, looks at your new vision and sees a blank space. And in the logic of the wild, a blank space on the map usually means there's a predator hiding in the shadows. So, the body does what it's supposed to do. It shuts you down. It makes you feel tired or distracted or suddenly very interested in 1,000 minor tasks that have nothing to do with your goal. This isn't a failure of your will, it's a success of your biology. Your body is doing its job perfectly. It's keeping you in the zone it knows you can survive in. Once you see it this way, that heavy weight of guilt, the feeling that you're somehow broken, starts to lift. You realize you haven't been fighting a lack of discipline. You've been fighting a highly efficient survival machine that is simply trying to keep you alive. You aren't lazy, you're just biologically committed to a version of yourself that your mind has outgrown. The question isn't how to try harder, it's how to negotiate a new peace treaty with your cells. If the body is a vast, ancient ecosystem, then we have to talk about the primary communication line that connects the landscape to the center. We have to talk about the vagus nerve. The word vagus actually comes from the Latin for wandering, which is fitting because this nerve doesn't just sit in your head. It wanders through your entire torso, touching your heart, your lungs, your gut, acting like a sophisticated internal undercurrent of data. It's constantly scanning, every millisecond, asking one single question: is it safe to grow right now? In the world of manifestation, we're often told that frequency is everything. We're told to match the frequency of the life we want. But if we strip away the mystical language and look at the biology, what we're really talking about is vagal tone. We're talking about the specific mathematical rhythm of your nervous system. You see, the vagus nerve is the bridge between your conscious mind and your unconscious survival mechanisms. It is the librarian of what your body considers allowable based on every chapter of your past. Think of it this way: your nervous system has three main settings. There's the ventral state, where you feel safe, social, and creative. This is the only state where neuroplasticity actually happens. Then there's sympathetic, which is fight or flight, the state of high-stakes hustle and anxiety. And then there's dorsal, which is the freeze state, the numbness, the feeling of being stuck in mud. Here's the glitch. When you sit down to visualize a massive, life-changing goal, your vagus nerve doesn't see a dream. It sees a massive disruption to the ecosystem. To a survival system, different is a signal to batten down the hatches. If you are trying to manifest from a state of internal pressure, you are essentially trying to plant a new garden during a storm. Your vagus nerve is sending a caution signal to your brain, which triggers that biological firewall. The currency of change isn't willpower. It isn't even positive thinking. The currency of change is safety. If your nervous system doesn't feel safe in the idea of having more money or more love or more visibility, it will literally block the neural pathways required to perceive the opportunities that would lead you there. You could be standing right in front of the door you've been praying for, and if your vagus nerve is in a state of contraction, your brain will physically blind you to it. It's not a lack of magic, it's a lack of biological permission. I want you to take a second and just feel into your own body right now. Notice your breath. Notice if your shoulders are pulled up towards your ears or if your belly is tight. That physical grip is your nervous system deciding whether or not it's safe to be present. This is the frequency everyone is talking about. It's not some cosmic radio station in the sky. It's the physical tonality of this nerve. When people say they've raised their vibration, what they've actually done is regulated their nervous system to a point where the new future no longer feels like an invasive species. They've convinced their vagus nerve that abundance is a safe state to inhabit. Manifestation stops being an exhausting struggle to force your mind to believe something your body is skeptical of. Instead, it becomes a process of gently expanding your safe zone. It becomes about showing your body, through slow somatic cues, that the life you want isn't a threat to the ecosystem. It's a natural evolution. When you start to work with the vagus nerve, you stop trying to manifest and you start to regulate. You're not trying to win a war, you're tending the soil. You are teaching your biology that it is safe to relax into a new reality. And the beautiful paradox is that once the body feels truly safe, it stops resisting the mind. The vibration shifts because the physical tension has finally let go. You move from the microscopic mechanics of nerves into a state of alignment, which is really just the biological signature of a human being who is finally at peace with their own landscape. So, if the vagus nerve is the communication line, the heart is the powerhouse, the actual broadcaster. We've been taught to view the heart as a simple pump, a mechanical slave to the brain's commands. But neurocardiology is showing us something much more profound. The heart has its own little brain, an intricate network of neurons that can sense, feel, and remember independently of the skull. In fact, the heart sends more information to the brain than it ever receives. It's not just a pump, it's an intelligence center. When we talk about heart rate variability, or HRV, we're looking at the mathematical space between your heartbeats. If those spaces are erratic and chaotic, a state called incoherence, your heart is essentially shouting danger to the rest of your system. This happens when we're stressed, frustrated, or ironically, when we're trying too hard to manifest. That internal effort, that grasping for a result, creates a jagged biological rhythm. And here's the catch. When your heart is in a state of incoherence, it actually inhibits the higher processing centers of your brain. It's like a radio signal being jammed. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that can see possibilities and solve problems, goes offline. You literally cannot think your way into a new future if your heart is broadcasting a signal of stress. You can visualize all you want, but if your heart rhythm is chaotic, your brain is physically incapable of perceiving the how. This is the difference between thinking the goal and feeling the coherence. One is a mental exercise, the other is a somatic state. When you move into heart coherence through slow, rhythmic breathing and a genuine shift into a state of appreciation or ease, you are essentially giving your brain a green light. You're telling the biological gatekeeper that the coast is clear. This coherence acts like a lens, focusing your internal energy. It quiets the default mode network, that internal critic that keeps reminding you why you aren't good enough or why your dream is impossible. The paradox is that to get what you want, you have to first prove to your body that you don't need it to feel safe. If you need the money to stop feeling anxious, your heart is broadcasting anxiety, which keeps the money away by keeping your brain in survival mode. But if you can generate the feeling of safety and coherence now, your heart begins to broadcast a signal of completion. You are preloading the reality into your cells before it shows up in your bank account or your living room. When you do this, reality almost doesn't have a choice but to follow. Not because of some mystical law of attraction, but because you have finally aligned your biology with your intention. You've moved from the high-tension effort of the mind into the steady, powerful resonance of the body. You're no longer fighting the biological firewall. You've used the heart to bypass it entirely. You aren't trying to manifest anymore, you are simply existing in a state where the outcome is already a biological fact. So how do we actually move this from a concept in your head into the marrow of your bones? We have to talk about the somatic protocol, the actual language of negotiation between your mind's desires and your body's survival instincts. If you want to move a goal into the bone, you have to practice what I call embodied presence. Most manifestation techniques tell you to focus on the feeling of having the thing. But there's a step before that which almost everyone skips. You have to first feel the discomfort of not having it without trying to escape it. Think about it. When you decide to change, when you step toward that new version of yourself, your nervous system immediately contracts. It's that tightness in your stomach or that flutter in your chest. Usually, our instinct is to push that feeling away with more affirmations or to distract ourselves with a screen. But when you do that, you're essentially telling your body, you're right to be afraid. This state is dangerous. The protocol is actually much simpler, though much harder. It's about sitting with that physical contraction and saying to your nervous system, I see you, I feel this tension, and we are still safe. You aren't trying to change the feeling. You're changing your relationship to it. You're holding space for your own survival mechanism. This is how you build what neuroscientists call vagal brake, the ability to stay regulated even when the stakes are high. Then comes the withdrawal period. This is the most critical part of the journey, and it's where most people give up. Once you start successfully regulating your system and moving toward a new reality, your body will experience a chemical crash. Remember, your cells were addicted to the old cocktail of stress, worry, or not enough. When you stop feeding them those hormones, they go into a state of withdrawal. Usually this happens between 48 and 72 hours after a big internal shift. You'll wake up and suddenly feel like everything is a mistake. you'll feel a wave of imposter syndrome or a sudden, inexplicable urge to go back to your old habits. This isn't a sign that you're failing, it's a sign that the biological firewall is mounting its final defense. It's trying to pull you back into the old safe zone. If you can stay present through those 72 hours, if you can look at that anxiety and recognize it as a chemical craving rather than a literal truth, something incredible happens. You reach the click. The click is the moment when the body finally accepts the new reality as the baseline. It's a physical sensation. It's not a high, and it's not an aha moment in the mind. It's a sudden, deep settling in the gut. The desire for the goal stops being a want, which is a state of lack, and it starts being a fact within the cells. You stop searching for the evidence of your success in the outside world because your body already feels the evidence internally. When you reach the click, the war is over. You aren't trying to believe anymore. You just do. You move through the world with a different physical weight. You make different choices, not because you're disciplined, but because it would feel physically wrong to do anything else. You've moved the goal from a thought in the clouds down into the bone. You have finally given your body permission to manifest what your mind has already seen. We've spent so much of our lives trying to conquer ourselves. We've treated our bodies like stubborn animals that need to be broken or like faulty machines that need to be reprogrammed. But as we've seen, the body isn't the enemy. It's just the part of us that remembers how to survive. Maybe the reason manifestation feels so hard is that we've been trying to do it while being divided. We've been trying to drag a terrified body into a future it doesn't understand. But when you stop the fight, when you move from the noise of the mind down into the somatic stillness of the heart and the nerves, the division disappears. You realize that you don't manifest what you think. You manifest who you are at a cellular level. You manifest the reality that your nervous system finally feels safe enough to inhabit. I want to leave you with one thought. If your body felt completely safe right now, if it knew with every cell that it was protected, seen, and already whole, who would you become? What would you do differently in the next hour? The deep click isn't about getting something new. It's about returning to a unified self. It's the feeling of a long-held tension finally letting go, and the realization that you don't have to fight yourself anymore. You can just be. And in that being, everything you've been reaching for finally has a place to land. Thanks for watching.